As we work our way through the Apostles' Creed, one of the things that's interesting is it says nothing about the ministry and teaching of Jesus. We jump from born of the Virgin Mary to suffered under Pontius Pilate. What about everything that happened between Luke 2 and Luke 22? In fact, the life and ministry of Jesus, the content of the Gospels, is over half of the New Testament. Well, we do need to at least mention that. We need to talk about that. Now, the reason the Apostles' Creed doesn't talk about it is more than likely because they dealt with it in other ways. This is where the sermons of the church were. These were things that people did need to know, but they weren't going to put all of the events of Jesus' ministry, all of the teachings that Jesus gave in the Apostles' Creed. When we look at the ministry of Jesus, what we see is that we can divide the ministry of Jesus into 5 basic stages. There is the section of the gospel that leads up to the ministry of Jesus. In Matthew, that's 4.5 chapters. In Mark, it's a few verses. In John, it's about half of a chapter. It really doesn't matter. The importance of this is to see John the Baptist presented as the last of the Old Testament prophets who came to introduce us to the Messiah. In the book of John, that is most clearly given to us when John says, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world." The second stage of Jesus' ministry we can call the period of popularity. As Jesus began to minister, at first he was received very well. He was a little bit of an anomaly. He did not teach like the Pharisees did. The book of Matthew, the end of the Sermon of the Mount, on the Mount, at the end of chapter 7, very specifically says that the people said, "This man doesn't teach like the Pharisees. He has authority." He doesn't quote what other teachers of the law says. He quotes the law. It's during this period of time that Jesus sends out his 70 disciples. It's during this period of time that he sends out his 12 disciples in ministry. They have literally evangelism tours, and they go spreading what they've heard from Jesus, talking about the kingdom, healing, casting out demons, just as Jesus did. After the period of popularity, there is a period of opposition. This begins during the period of popularity, but it's isolated to just the Pharisees. By Mark chapter 3, this period now begins a period in which more than just the Pharisees oppose Jesus. There is a rumor campaign that the Pharisees begin when they say that Jesus casts out demons by the power of the prince of demons, Beelzebub. It's during this period of time that Jesus begins to move away from public ministry. He calls the 12 and he spends a great deal of time with the 12. Now, not seeking public ministry. The amount of time that Jesus spends doing miracles decreases. The amount of time that he spends preaching to the multitude almost evaporates. Instead, we see Jesus preaching to the 12. He's ministering now, preparing the disciples for what's coming next. In the book of John, chapter 11, at the end of this period of time, it says that the Pharisees and the Sadducees came together and decided in the Sanhedrin that they would now seek to have Jesus killed. The fourth stage of Jesus' ministry is his passion. This final week of Jesus' life consumes about a third of all of the Gospels. In this stage, we see a great deal of teaching. We see a few miracles that Jesus does, but primarily Jesus is preparing the people for what he knows will happen before that week is out. And then the crucifixion comes. The fifth stage of Jesus' ministry in the Gospels are his post-resurrection appearances. In the book of Mark, there are very few. In the book of Luke, we have quite a few recorded. Matthew is short, but John has quite a few appearances recorded. In these post-resurrection appearances, Jesus is preparing his disciples for what he is going to do when he goes back to the Father. Now that's the ministry of Jesus. 5 generic stages: the precursor, the period of popularity, the period of opposition, the passion, and then the post-resurrection appearances. If we turn to the teaching of Jesus, a couple of years ago, I went through all of Jesus' teaching, and I tried to summarize them in a limited number of themes. And what I found was that Jesus basically gives us 5 principal themes. The first theme is be saved. This includes things like come to me, like believe in Jesus, like follow Jesus. After teaching that we should be saved, Jesus says that we should share the gospel. This includes, in the book of John, opening your eyes to see the harvest, John 4:35. It includes praying for workers, receiving the Holy Spirit, going to places that need the gospel, and making disciples. The third theme is behave like Jesus. These include the commandments to serve like Jesus, of not seeking vengeance, of not worrying, of not taking the first place, and of loving our enemies. We need to learn to behave like Jesus. And then, slightly different, we need to become like Jesus. Now here I saw Jesus teaching his disciples that they should listen to him, that they should be perfect, that they should pray, that they should guard against false prophets, that they should love, that they should be prepared, and that they should remain in Jesus. The last overarching theme of Jesus's teaching is that they should grow as a community. Here we include things like they should be reconciled to each other. They should forgive each other. They should correct each other. They should love each other. And they should feed the sheep. The ministry and teaching of Jesus. What an incredibly rich area for study. We're just summarizing it here, just so that we don't forget about it. This is the core of the gospel.